Hi, I'm Coffee Kevin. And, well, that caught me off guard. It is great to be here for CoffeeCon 2021 Online Live. We begin our 2021 CoffeeCon Online Live event with a fascinating morning pick-me-up presentation, Sensory Development. It may interest you to know that the most important first step of attaining a wonderful coffee experience is to take a deep breath and then consider how you taste. To do this, there's no better person I know to ask about sensory development. In my working class Chicago speech, I guess I would call it building your taste muscles, than Big Shoulders Coffee's founder, Tim Coonan.
We believe coffee is culinary, developing thoughtful relationships with farmers and an understanding of complexity from seed to cup. From a velvety mouthfeel with a caramel-toned finish to a savory structure with bright acidity. Try us at Big Shoulders Coffee.
First of all, Kevin, I can't thank you and Pat enough to finding the wherewithal to put on CoffeeCon in 2021. We missed it so much last year, and this is the Grammy Awards, the Golden Globe Awards of coffee for us coffee roasters, to be able to engage with our loving fans and introduce ourselves to new fans and friends around the world. So, I mean, and also, it's pretty amazing that we're talking to people from all over the world right now. So we are gathered. I hope everybody's got a great cup of coffee in front of them, and we're prepared for this great show that Kevin and Pat have put on. And so, Kevin, thank you so much for finding the wherewithal and the courage to do this. We're excited for it.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is, we're going to talk about tasting coffee and stretching the palate and how do we get there, and how we build a vocabulary so that you can go in. There's probably nothing more frustrating for consumers to be told by a critic or a fancy pants coffee roaster that this bag of coffee is great, and that's why. And then you buy it, you take it home, and you're disappointed in it. And you've spent
this would have been a great reason if you were going.
And so you've spent that money, and you don't quite get it. So we want to give you the tools and the vocabulary, build a toolbox, as it were, to be able to walk in, talk about the things that you like, talk about the things that you don't like. And that's a great starting point. Okay, but what I definitely want to talk about is what this is not going to be. It's not going to be a cupping. So, sad trombone. If that's what you were looking for this morning, it's not going to happen. I really want to approach this. Cupping is, I have very strong opinions about cupping. We're not going to get into that. Cupping is really for professionals to discern quality and production quality from a day-to-day basis, and if we're going to bring a coffee in from a farmer or an importer, and we can find it in our lineup, and there's some value there. So it's not going to be a cupping. We're not going to talk about brewing. There's going to be tons of people today that are going to talk about brewing. Kevin has assembled a who's who of coffee professionals for us today. And they're going to talk about, a variety of things. Brewing, one of them. Grinding, for sure. Super important part of it. We'll touch on that maybe. Then the creme de la creme at the very end is Ken Davids, who's really going to dive deep into what I'm going to just introduce today. So stay with us and let's have a lot of fun. I would be remiss if I didn't do a shameless plug. So you are probably right now wondering, who is this guy, Tim Coonan, Big Shoulders Coffee. Go to our website, bigshoulderscoffee.com. During CoffeeCon this weekend, we have got a huge discount going on. Sign up for our newsletter. You'll get a code sent to you that allows you to get 25% off site-wide. So go do that. We've got some incredible coffees. Okay, so perhaps you've been around somebody that's tasting coffee and they're waxing poetically about, oh, I'm picking up lychee and oh, hibiscus, and it's a finish of Nilla wafer, and it's lost on your ears. So my goals today are not to support this concept of snootiness. Okay, we want to really enjoy coffee. So coffee has one job, and that job is to create community, bring us together. And so we can probably, what I want to do is look at coffee from how we would enjoy it. So when I enjoy coffee at home on the weekends, it is different from when I'm at work. When I'm at work, I am really diving into a lot of the different things that are happening in coffee. I'm looking at, trying to pick up the different acidity levels and fruit and tannins and things like that in the coffee. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, does this coffee have room in our lineup? Can I sell it? Is it a value for our customers and our guests? It's different at home. And so really I want to approach this for us, the home enthusiasts. So when I drink coffee on Sunday morning, it is for pure pleasure. And what I'm really doing is I'm diving in, and I'm enjoying the entire process from opening the bag to grinding to brewing to sipping to allowing it to cool, paying attention to all these flavors that are developing in the coffee. And that's really where I want to go with today's presentation. So this is a coffee cupping sheet. This is a reference point for a professional to use, and it is overwhelming to me. So what we want to do is eliminate some of the snootiness, some of the intimidation, and we want to build trust in our own palate. So you know yourself better than anybody else. So this is your coffee journey. So when I first started drinking wine years ago, I thought I was the cat's meow, and I would drink Sutter Home White Zinfandel. Since then, my flavors have really grown and developed. So I was a small town hick from Indiana that was lucky enough to pursue a career in the culinary arts. I went and worked in Europe, and when I went from farm cooking to this long tradition of culinary, a culinary tradition in Italy and France, and I was introduced to bitter and sour flavors. These were mind-blowing flavors. I can still remember the first time I had sweet and sour cipollini onions in Italy, and I just thought that they were, I'd had onions before, but I hadn't had onions that were cooked in vinegar and with sugar added to them or honey added to them, and that balancing tart sweetness that really made the onion itself so approachable and soft and subtle in my mouth. So it's really frustrating to not get what a roaster or a critic is trying to tell you. Coffee is a collaborative here. So it's between the farmer, the roaster, and you, the home brewer. So it can be if everybody does their job right, it can be a really transformative experience. So we really want to be, we're all trying to be very thoughtful when we do this, okay? So you, as the consumer, you only need a couple of things when you're tasting coffee. First of all, you need curiosity, you need enthusiasm, and you need a certain bit of open-mindedness to do this. So can coffee taste like anything other than coffee? Yeah, I am here to emphatically tell you, yes, it can. I can remember when there was one flavor of coffee, and it was Maxwell House or Folgers. Not to be mean to them, but well, maybe. But my first experiences with coffee were on cold winter mornings in Indiana with my dad and his cup of probably Maxwell House or Folgers and a Coffee Mate and sugar, and stealing sips of that while he was outside scraping the window ice off the window shield. But coffee has come a long way. Some of you watching are probably old enough to remember when there was one flavor of beer, and it was yellow fizz. There was one flavor of coffee. There was one flavor of wine. There was one flavor of many of the things that we consume. But there are so many things that we can really stretch and grow our palate with, and it's really building this memory, this muscle memory. And it's almost, so I can remember my mom's blueberry pie. So my mom she's been dead for 10 years. The last time I tried her blueberry pie was probably 15 or 18 years ago, and I can still taste it. So food memories are these super powerful tools that we can use to call up from the past, from things that we've consumed, and enjoy. So why is that important? That's important because when we're sipping something, you can say to yourself, I've had this, I've tasted this. What is that? Is that blueberry? And blueberry does exist. I mean, it really does exist in coffee. So in an Ethiopian natural, there's commonly, you will get blueberry in your coffee. Now, that's not for everybody. So you need to understand what you like. So if it's pretty easy to understand the difference between, say, a light roast and a dark roast, what I like and what I don't like, but let's dive a little bit deeper. All right? So we're going to explore, we're going to trust our palate, we're going to not make this a competition, all right? Well, so how do we learn? We taste. So coffee has some acidity in it. So I've got a few ingredients here that have various levels of acidity, and some of it is easier to consume than others. I mean, you've got, there's acidity in apples and pear. That's malic acid, and then you've got citrus, various levels of acidity in citric acid. So you've got the sweetness of blood orange. You've got tangerine. You've got grapefruit here that can be really bracing, and of course lemon. So when we encounter those things in coffee, lime most definitely can occur in a Costa Rican coffee, and those can be really pleasant. But how do you pick that up? You taste things that have these sorts of ingredients. A really great vehicle for that is ethnic foods. So Southeast Asian foods, European foods like German food that uses a lot of vinegar in their cooking. And those are things that we can happily explore by going out to those sort of ethnic restaurants and tasting different things. So you got vinegar as acetic acid, and things like pomegranate molasses. This is just such a fabulous flavor, sweet, tart, tangy. That will be reminiscent of this sweet tart candy when we were kids, or pixie sticks. So taste. There's really you can learn just as much from a bad cup of coffee as you can from a good cup of coffee. So there's a reason why it's probably bad. It could be poor farming. It could be Robusta versus Arabica. It could be poor roasting, poor handling. It could be stale aged coffee. It could be poor brewing. So there's really nothing more frustrating than someone that comes in and we've encouraged them to purchase a bag of coffee because we feel like it's very good, and we sell it to them. They take it home, and then they come back and I see them a few days later, and and I ask them, "Hey, how was that coffee?" And they're like, "Eh." And I can tell, I can tell it wasn't very good. They didn't like it. It wasn't a good experience. And then I start to dig a few questions. So I'm pretty hard-boiled, and I'm pretty cynical. So I'm pretty thick-skinned. So I've been around a bit. So if somebody tells me they don't like the coffee, that's okay. You don't have to like what I like. But digging a few questions and asking, okay, so do you have a grinder? Yeah, I have a grinder. Well, no, I actually don't have a grinder. I grind it up in my bullet. Okay, all right. First little hiccup. What about how do you brew it? Well, I brew it in my my Mr. Coffee that's 20 years old, and so there's some deficiencies there right away. So we're probably going to get over extraction because of using a blender to grind the coffee. It'll get too fine. So you want to match the grind with the brewing method. So that might be fine for espresso, or no, it's not fine. So we need to figure out good brewing techniques. So good brewing is really, really important to the coffee. All right. So even ourselves, I've had bad coffee. That's ours. That's Big Shoulders coffee. And it's really because I've gone to a municipality that didn't have a very good water supply. So getting a good, it doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to get a fancy in-house RO system to brew the coffee. You get one of those Brita $30 things that you can put on the kitchen counter, and it brews great coffee. So what we want to begin to kind of differentiate here is, we know what we like, we know what we don't like. We can differentiate light and dark. What we want to try to begin to understand is the nuances between, say, an earthed Sumatra coffee versus a Kenyan coffee, versus a honey process Costa Rican versus a Ethiopian natural coffee. So those sort of coffees, you need to understand what you like and what you can begin to kind of build some training wheels to enjoy down the road. So my mom, for instance, lifelong Folgers drinker. When I would brew her lovely Ethiopian natural, she would spit it out and say, that is not coffee. That's just not in her wheelhouse, and that's okay. She drank her coffee for years with cream and sugar, and that's okay too. You don't have to drink it black, but you want to try to remove some of those inhibitors to flavor perception for our palate. So the thing about probably one of the most influential things about tasting coffee would be temperature. So all things being equal, we've got a coffee in front of us that we like. It's brewed properly. It's been roasted properly. It's been farmed properly. Temperature really is one of the most important things. So as the coffee cools, it will really, some of those sharper flavors will become more rounded and muted, and then you get more body and more creaminess to the coffee, and you can get this really wonderful richness. So some of the things that we think about with coffee. So the first thing is probably aroma. So aroma. There are so many people that tell me, I don't like coffee, I don't drink coffee, but I love the smell of it. So if you don't have a home grinder, please get one. In fact, later on today, somebody from Baratza will be talking about grinders, and that's going to be a huge, really, that's probably the number one influencer for brewing great coffee at home. Get a good grinder. So that's part of the experience, is the smell and the aroma and the joy that you get for that. It should really begin to get our salivary glands going. It should be a mouth-watering kind of experience. All right, so aroma. There's a little touch of a disconnect there, because aroma, while it does lend this idea of what's about to come, a pleasurable experience. It doesn't necessarily tell us about what that coffee is going to actually taste like. So, what are some of the things that we can encounter when we're tasting coffee? Well, we can encounter fruit and some of the sweetness that comes from fruit, and so there might be like apple or nectarine, citrus certainly. There might be some grape. There might be some raspberry, blueberry. There might be some nuttiness to it. So pecans are like creamy, macadamia nuts. Almond is a common thing. Peanut butter. Why do I have this? Because my daughter wanted me to pick up some peanut butter for her, and I'm a choosy mother. But it's also because of early on when we were roasting coffee, I would encounter peanut frequently. Peanut, in my estimation, is not a good flavor. It's an indication that the coffee is underdeveloped. So it's a good learning tool. So I would encourage you definitely to buy some of these things, taste them, and really taste them. We are probably guilty of just throwing stuff in our mouth and really not thinking about what we're throwing in our mouth. So begin to really kind of take a breath, take your time, enjoy what you're consuming, and learn from it. That's really the only way we can stretch our palate and learn from our palate. Okay, sweetness. So there's inherent. So coffee, although we'll talk about bitter in a second, but there is inherent sweetness in coffee. And sweet, it's not going to be like eating a brownie, but it will be like a little bit of honey or a little bit of sugar, brown sugar. And so there's different types. So you've got honey, you've got maple syrup, you've got. This is an example of, this is piloncillo. This is from a Latin market, from a Mexican market. This is one of my favorite forms of sugar. It's not really super sweet, and it's super complex. It's got a lot of herbs and aromatics and spice to it that's really delicious. So in baking, a lot of times or in my morning oatmeal, that is really awesome. I'll grate some of that right on top of it. So coffee has this really wonderful natural sweetness. You might pick up things like spice, like nutmeg. I mean, that's so wonderfully fresh and aromatic. I mean, when you get whole nutmeg like this, it's different than the stuff that's already ground and probably has been ground for years. All right, so we've got some spice, some saffron. I've got a coffee that from Burundi that is really exotic and has some of these really exotic saffron smells to it that really are just are amazing in the cup as the cup cools. There's tasting vinegars that are common in Asian, Vietnamese, and Thai cooking. Get some of those, try those. So things like kombucha, things like, of course, we've got Amaro here. Amaro is a digestive from northern Italy, but lots of cultures have bitter after dinner drinks that lend to digestion. But I love sitting in front of the fire in the winter and sipping on some of this late at night. And it's really, really fabulous. This one is so super complex beverage. It's got all kinds of bitter. Joe, the cameraman here, was asking me earlier, "What is that?" And I told him, "We'll bust it open and take a sniff." And he was like, "Oh, I'm not very fancy, but is that licorice?" And so there is some licorice there, some star anise, some vanilla. Caramelized sugar, orange, burnt sour orange peel. All these things together, aged wonderfully in a bottle over the course of a couple of years or something. Really fabulous. So you've got some fruit, you've got some sweetness, you might have chocolate. So this isn't your mom's or dad's chocolate bar. This is a 92% chocolate, bitter chocolate, and this is really, just fabulous. So it's not like a Reese's peanut butter cup that has got some tart, tangy, wonderful flavors happening there. So you've got all these things. You've got sour, you've got bitter, you've got savory, you've got umami. So umami is this. So we pick up salt, sour, bitter, sweet on our tongue. But there's also some other things. There's spice, there's hot, and then there's this loose term, umami. Umami is this. It comes to us from Japanese culture, Japanese cuisine, and it's defined by a sense of savoriness. So umami, I definitely pick up umami in a coffee from Kenya quite often in the form of like stewed tomato. So umami is something like Gruyere cheese or Parmesan cheese, certain kinds of mushrooms like shiitake mushrooms. Umami is really redolent in those types of foods. And it's just this cured meats like salami, where it's like this indescribable, it's not sweet, it's not salt, it's not sour, what is that? It's lingering on the palate. That's what umami is. Okay, so, and then understand that all this stuff can be blown away by that chili cheese dog you had last night with extra onions that just destroyed your palate this morning. So as you drink the coffee, it's just not, wait a minute, this coffee doesn't taste like the coffee I had yesterday or 2 days ago. It's terrible. So really thinking about what you've consumed in the last 24 hours is also, plays a role in all this. All right, so roasters have different coffees for different reasons. So we have coffees that are designed for coffee drinkers that like to add cream and sugar. And there's no sin in that. That's totally okay. All right, so I don't know if there's any questions that you want to get to, Kevin, but I'm happy to take some right now. And then, by the way, people, if you are by the way, shout out to my Atlanta peeps out there. Hey, how you doing? So questions.
Yes, I would be.
Okay, great. Let's dig into it.
Okay, let's see. Good morning, Tim. Oh, and this was earlier. She said, "What's Unami mean?" And I think you explained that. This is Terry in Rockville, Maryland.
I think I did.
Go ahead. Do you want to give a little more, or do you want to?
No, I think I
thought we did that too. Yeah, and let's see. Another question is sometimes I taste different tastes. This is T. Beckett in Salt Lake City. Sometimes I taste different things than my partner, and I guess he or she is asking, is it possible that two people taste the same flavors and get different flavors?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, coffee is a personal journey. So we have our own personal biases and likes and dislikes. So my friend in Salt Lake City, don't worry about what your partner is tasting. Don't let that influence you, good or bad. All right. So my wife really enjoys a darker roasted coffee. I do not. My wife really enjoys a French press of coffee. I do not, and that's okay. I still love her, and we are still married, and that's okay. So she puts cream and sugar. Actually, she doesn't use sugar. She uses maple syrup. So she puts maple syrup and cream into her coffee, and that's okay. I'm totally cool with that. So make it be your journey, okay? You're building your own toolkit here, your own library. Taste, perceive, compare, think, kind of describe. Those are all your perceptions. Okay, anything else, Kevin?
No, right now I think that's
okay.
Pretty good. We've got you got that's a great answer, by the way. Thank you.
Okay, so understand here that there's no right and wrong. This isn't a test. There's no, we're not going to, we're not going to fail here. We're only going to win. So this is really great. So please understand why we're doing this is because we want to be able to make good purchases, and we want to be able to ask good questions. These are the kind of questions, and by the way, all right, so if you think of a question, email me, tim@bigshoulderscoffee.com. tim@bigshoulderscoffee.com. I will answer all your questions. I love to interact with people about the most arcane questions. And so call me. Go to our website. Our phone number's there. I'm one of those people that I actually pick up the phone. And we have our phone number on the website. Lots of people don't. So if you think of things that you want to ask me, definitely do it. So Aroma prepares us for what's about to happen. We should begin to get some excitement and salivated glands going. Okay, so 3 words that are often maligned in coffee: bitter, acidity, and sour. Sour is probably there because of brewing, probably a poor brewing, probably over extraction. So it's best to start with more of a coarse grind, then work your way towards finer. So probably a couple of the biggest mistakes with grinding or with brewing coffee is the grind. We grind it too fine. We underdose it. We're cheap, and the water temperature isn't proper. So that 20-year-old Mr. Coffee maker that even if it was brand new is never going to get to the water temperature that it needs to get to. So that's going to produce coffee that is under extracted. So over extraction produces sour flavors. Under extraction, you get these leathery, tannic sort of notes on the sides and back of your mouth. So acidity and bitterness are really important aspects of coffee because they balance the fruit, the sweetness that's inherent in coffee. So sweet comes from well-handled coffee. Sweet comes from fruit that's ripe, it's picked at the peak of ripeness, it is processed properly, and it gets to the roaster properly. So all the supply chain is intact. So we really want to celebrate that sweetness. So you think of things like beer. So beer. Beer is not just yellow fizz. Beer is, so the first time I went to Europe when I was in my early 20s and was blown away in Germany by these sour beers. And they were just, they were too much for me. These Berliner Weiss beers that they serve with, they're so tart, in fact, that they serve them with a float of like a raspberry syrup. But these beers on themselves, like now by themselves alone, I can drink a Berliner Weiss. I don't need the syrup as a training wheel to enjoy that. And it's so mind-blowing, this flavor. So you think of beer, though. Beer is, what is it? It's water, yeast, malted barley, and hops. Why are the hops there? The hops are there because if you just made beer with water, yeast, and malted barley, you would be incredibly sweet. It would be if you've ever had barley wine, which I don't particularly care for, it is really, really alcoholic. It's got really a strong fermenty taste to it, and it's really overly sweet. I don't care for it, but you introduce hops to it, and you've got an imperial IPA. So hops add this bittering agent and a little bit of preservative type of activity. But it adds this bittering agent that makes the whole experience balanced and pleasant. So that's why in coffee you've got to have this bitter chocolate taste, this like really like sweet taste of like this piloncillo that isn't like, it's not like white refined sugar. It's like sugar that is really super complex and broad. So bitter, acidity add structure and backbone to coffee. You need it to be present. So it all needs to be balanced. So for me, I like really balanced, probably Latin American coffees, sweet, mild, slightly acidic, slight fruit, slight bitter, but I like a well-balanced cup of coffee. And I drink it black. And for me, the coffee that I reach for almost consistently every day is our Colombian. It's not a fancy coffee. It's not an Ethiopian Yirgacheffe. It's not a Panama Geisha. But it's a coffee that I can really reach for. I can enjoy it, and I can chug it, and I can sip it and savor it. So you've got aroma, acidity, sweet. What about body? Body influences the whole experience as well. So body can be because of a particular origin. So certain origins have more body inherently than others. One that leaps to mind is Sumatra. It's an origin that I don't particularly care for, and I've got biases against it. I've also got, so you also look at things like how it's brewed. So a French press versus a paper filter. That will give body. And then you've got finish. Finish is really what's left, what lingers, what carries the experience all the way to the finish line. So those are some of the things that we think about when we're tasting coffee, when we're developing our preferences and the things that we enjoy. Go out there, explore. Go out there and enjoy. Go out there and have fun. And try to figure out some things that you can communicate to your local coffee roaster and find coffees that you truly enjoy, because this is what it's all about. Coffee brings us together. Coffee is community. And I'm really grateful, Kevin, that you have created this, and this is really a wonderful coffee community that you've made for all of us. Anything else that we want to wrap up with? I think I should probably do another shameless plug. Big Shoulders Coffee.
Go back, give him his plug.
Right. I think I should probably do another shameless plug. We hope that you're energized for the rest of the day. BigShouldersCoffee.com. We've got a 25% off thing going all weekend long. But Kevin has assembled an incredible group of people. Ask questions, explore, participate, enjoy this today. And I hope this has been a great and exciting start to your day. Thank you so much.